Opinions swirl in the blame game on Syria. Following one of the worst chemical attacks in Syrian history, which killed dozens of innocent civilians, the Trump administration has been under a hailstorm of pressure and facing questions of who is to blame. President Trump inherited a no-win situation in our relationship with Syria that started with ineffective leadership from former President Obama. Trump has warned Obama in the past of the dangers of jumping into the Syrian conflict, both for America and for the Syrian people. But following the deadly chemical attack and vowing not to show the same weakness displayed by the Obama administration in dealing with Syria and Assad's allies, Trump ordered an airstrike of Tomahawk cruise missiles aimed at a military airfield in the western province of Homs. NBC News reports Syria's military said the U.S. attack violated all international laws and customs and that it made America a partner of ISIS and other terrorist organizations. It condemned the White House for acting without knowing the truth about what occurred and without identifying those responsible for the chemical attack. However, Syrian armed rebel group Ahrar al-Sham told NBC News it welcomed any U.S. intervention through surgical strikes that would deter the Assad regime capabilities to kill civilians and shorten the suffering of our people. A White House official said more than 24 members of Congress were briefed by administration officials on the missile strike. Vice President Mike Pence returned to the White House after having gone home for dinner Thursday evening and monitored the events from the Situation Room, officials said.
Assad choked out the lives of helpless men, women, and children. It is in this vital national security interest of the United States to prevent and deter the spread and use of deadly chemical weapons.
The Hill reports the president faulted his predecessor for helping create the conditions for the attack when he backed away from his 2012 red line on Assad's use of chemical weapons. These heinous actions by the Bashar al-Assad regime are a consequence of the past administration's weakness and irresolution, Trump said. Obama threatened an air campaign to topple Assad but called it off at the last minute when the Syrian leader agreed to give up his chemical arsenal under a deal brokered by Moscow, a decision which Trump has long said proved Obama's weakness. President Trump has vowed to put America first, and while he said he takes his responsibility very seriously in his response to Assad, he is looking to put the safety and security of Americans at the forefront. The mainstream media, in their outrage over the chemical attack, had heavily reported on the need for American intervention in Syria, especially from Trump's critics in Congress. Earlier this week, The Hill reported on comments made by globalist senators John McCain and Marco Rubio, who have often been critical of Trump. McCain, a vocal critic of President Donald Trump's foreign policy, said the commander-in-chief needs to speak out against Assad and the promise that his allies will pay a price for their actions against the Syrian people.
I want him to hear him say, we're going to arm the Free Syrian Army. We are going to dedicate ourselves to the removal of Bashar Assad. We're going to have the Russians pay a price for their engagement. The Iranians and Hezbollah are also heavily involved. All players here are going to have to pay a penalty, and the United States of America is going to be on the side of people who fight for freedom.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has stated the need for Russia and Iran to put an end to their support of the Assad regime and end the civil war that has plagued the region, and commented on the decision to launch the airstrike. NBC News reports, "We feel that the strike itself was proportional because it was targeted at the facility that delivered this most recent chemical weapons attack," Tillerson told reporters. "There was a thorough examination of a wide range of options, and I think the president made the correct choice and made the correct decision," Tillerson said. Senator Marco Rubio had gone so far as to blame comments made earlier this week by Secretary of State Rex Tillerson for the chemical attack after he stated the need for Russia and Iran to put an end to their support of the Assad regime and end the civil war that has plagued the region. The Hill reported on Rubio's reaction to the original chemical attack.
In this case now, we have very limited options. And look, it's concerning that the Secretary of State 72 hours ago or a week ago, last Friday, said, that this is the future's up to the people in Syria on what happens with Assad, in essence almost nodding to the idea that Assad was going to get to stay in some capacity. I don't think it's a coincidence that a few days later we see this.
President Trump has vowed to study the situation in Syria carefully, as well as any continued action by the U.S. against the Assad regime. Unlike the globalists in Congress and the media, President Trump clearly wants to stray from the disastrous way former President Obama handled the crisis. Obama not only created an appearance of weakness to the Syrian regime, but as the country continues to crumble under their civil war, Obama welcomed thousands of unvetted refugees from the country into the U.S. to put Americans in danger. Whatever the Trump administration's continued response to the Syrian crisis will be, Americans can rest assured that the best interest of the U.S. will be at the forefront of the president's decision-making. Leave us your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching.